I really truly believe this audience is going to play a role in saving the nation. I don't know how that happens, but I felt that so strongly after 9/11, after '08, and it wasn't about those times. It was about, I think, maybe these times. It was the future. That you are listening for a reason, and reason is the operative word. The world has become unreasonable and unstable. It is not the world, as I told you yesterday, not the world that you grew up in, and you have to think out of the box. It's really difficult, especially for people like you and me that feel very alone, feel like nobody is standing up, nobody's listening to us, nobody appreciates what we're talking about. We're not talking about overthrowing the government. We're saying let's restore. We need refounders. We need people to restore the values and principles that have united not only America, but the Western world for generations. There's real problems. We should clean those problems up, but let's not throw away the good parts of our society. And we're throwing them away. And quite honestly, we are celebrating evil now. Our country and the West has become so decadent. And quite honestly, I think evil is running a lot of it. And there's a lot of people that just can't see it. And there's a reason for that. Things happen slowly over time. You're boiled slowly, so you don't really notice it. You have a normalcy bias. You look for the things that are normal, and you dismiss warning signs because you're freaked out, and the normalcy bias is something that is in all of us. It is honestly a blessing, because when we're in bad situations, we can function. Otherwise, if we didn't have that natural normalcy bias, we wouldn't be able to function in very stressful situations. But just because that's a natural thing, it's a protection of us, don't let it rule you. And that's what's happening all over the world, quite honestly. Look at what the world is saying. The world is saying two things. The elites are saying more power for us, more control for us. We know how to fix everything, and we're going to do it either as a nation state, China or Russia or Turkey, or we're going to do it through a great reset, and the globe will be one. America, England, the EU, Japan. Those are the two choices for the elites. What are you hearing from Brexit to the yellow vests to the Tea Party to the Canadian truckers? You're hearing the same thing. Leave us alone and stop telling us our country sucks. Stop telling us that we're the problem of all the world's ills. Like you people had nothing to do with this? Like you elites? You've been running the damn thing. And we're to blame? Get out. That's really what we're saying. Leave us alone. Leave us alone. We know our friends and neighbors can do a better job at running things than you're running from whatever capital you're in. That's the feeling. There's also a feeling that we're open-minded people. We are. We're decent people that will live. We'll tolerate so much. We're not hateful people unless we're taught to hate. But there's a feeling like, is anyone going to stand up for 2 + 2 is 4? Is anyone going to stand up for marriage? Is anyone going to stand up for hard work, a work ethic? Is anybody going to stand up for real education, real history? Who's standing up for these things? Will anybody stand up for God, for the love of Pete? That's happening also in varying degrees, especially on the God thing, all around the world. And our churches have pretty much sold us down the river. Where are our churches? You know, I was having dinner with somebody last night, and we were talking about how close to the edge we all are, and where's leadership. And after the dinner, I was talking to a friend as we were walking to the car, and I said, you know what? We need a Martin Luther King, but where the hell are they? We need somebody who understands the American ideals and principles and values, the Bill of Rights, that can talk common sense and also understands that individual freedom comes from God. There is no one on earth that is a champion for individual freedom. Now, I bring this up because we feel alone, and there is a great urge to see ourselves in other people. And when you see people like the Canadian truckers, when you see people like the Ukrainians that are suffering, and you have a tyrant, it's part of America to want to be involved. That's in our blood. We go to help, okay? Who's going to defend freedom if it's not us? Nobody. Everybody else will stand and watch. So that's in us, and it's a good thing. It's a good thing. But you have to be really, really careful. Really careful. There is a game being played. And as Steve Day said last night on my TV program, the lowest stakes we're playing for is the freedom and the existence of the Western way of life. Those are the lowest stakes, guys. This could all be over quickly. Let's walk with reason. Let me show you how some really smart guys and some really bright populations really destroyed themselves and were misguided. Let me start with the French Revolution. I'm going to tell you the story about the day that Thomas Jefferson and Thomas Paine went to visit George Washington. Now, if it wasn't for Thomas Paine, we wouldn't have had the Declaration of Independence. If it wasn't for Thomas Jefferson, nobody would have written it. It wouldn't have been written the same, and I think it wouldn't have been nearly as powerful because that came from him. And if it wasn't for George Washington, we wouldn't have won. We wouldn't have been able to hold it together. He was the guy that everybody trusted. So here are some of the three biggest heroes in our history. They get together and they disagree on the French Revolution. Thomas Jefferson and Thomas Paine say, this is our fight. How can you sit here? You have a son. You have almost a son that came over from France to help. And now they need our help and you won't go? It's not our fight. It's not the same. Yes, it is. The people are crying out under the tyrant of the king. They want freedom. Yes, they do, but it's not the same. It's not our fight. Thomas Jefferson was calm enough to not say anything stupid, but Thomas Paine was he wrote and stirred people up for a living. And he said to George Washington, out of all the people that would sit around on their hands when people are crying out for freedom, and those people are French, I never would have thought it would be you sitting around doing nothing. I'm going to France. I recommend, President Washington, that you go to France. Washington said, we're never going to France. And if you decide to go, that is your right to do that. But I'm warning you, you're walking into a situation that is not the American Revolution. It is different. And if you get in trouble, you can write all you want, but this government will not go bail you out. You're making your choice now. Thomas Paine went. He wrote all kinds of things in support of the French Revolution until the guillotines came out. And then he realized, wait a minute, this is not the same fight. Because they were missing something. Their understanding of God and the church was wrapped up into the king. So they not only didn't believe in church, they were anti-church and anti-God. Because remember, they had been taught God appoints the king. They knew that wasn't true, so God must not be true. That's why the guillotines came out. He almost lost his life. He never spoke to President Washington ever again. A very bright patriot that didn't see the subtle difference. Now, let me tell you another story. After World War I, the churches had so discredited themselves because, again, the church said, this is what God wants. God wants us to go in and battle. And God will protect us. Well, God didn't protect the Germans, did they? Did God do that? Were they fine? No. They lost, and then they were humiliated. So the churches kind of did what our churches are doing. They're just kind of like, hey, come on Sunday. Hey, come back. We're going to do a stage show. Well, they did whatever they had to do. Very few remains faithful. We know that because after Hitler took over in 1933, it was just around 1934 that most of the Christian churches were meeting to get rid of the Old Testament because it was, quote, too Jewish. Now, how did they get to Hitler? They got to Hitler because the Weimar Republic was promising people an escape. They could do and say anything. It was a new world. And so while we had the roaring 20s, they had the roaring orgies. It was drugs as much as you wanted, easy to get. The hierarchy had been overthrown. Now the kids were in charge and the old people were out. The old people didn't understand. Homosexuality wasn't just okay. It was embraced. The old traditions of a man and wife being married, erased. The churches were ridiculous. All traditional values had been flipped upside down. Why do they say that? Hitler was this was a Christian movement? He wasn't a Christian. He hated Christians. He put priests and all kinds of Christians, Dietrich Bonhoeffer, into concentration camps, the ones who were really speaking about God. Why is this a Christian movement? It's not. But he said the right things to a desperate people that wanted to have their traditions restored. And he said, what happened to us? This isn't us. This isn't us. Where's God? Where's decency? Where's living like we should? Where is the idyllic German that has a strong body and a strong mind and that can conquer anything? We're in a new era. Wow, that sounds exciting, especially if you've lost all of those things. So here's the thing. Whenever you want to get onto a bandwagon in times of great confusion, be very careful. The band may be playing what sounds like your song, but either a few notes, important notes, will be missing, or there's extra notes that everyone says, oh, I know those extra notes are on the page, but they're not going to do that. They're just like me. When you look at Putin and say, yeah, I mean, he's standing up for traditional values, there are extra notes on his page. You can be for the people in Ukraine and still know that Putin is a bloodthirsty killer who says he's standing up for your values. But don't we hear that from a lot of dirtbag, two-faced politicians here as well? You just give us the White House, the House, and the Senate, and we are with you on your values. No, you're not. How many times are we going to be lied to by powerful elites? And then when another powerful elite comes in and says, I'm with you, we go, yeah, that's right, they've been lying to us, but we believe you this time.